You know that sinking feeling? The one that hits right after graduation, or let's be real, the very first time you sit down to stare at your taxes? Yeah, that profound frustration when you suddenly realize you just spent, 15 plus years in the traditional education system, and absolutely nobody taught you how money actually works? Well, in this explainer, we're going to unpack what I like to call the hidden architecture of financial literacy. We'll dive right into exactly why you were trained to solve complex algebraic equations, but somehow completely left in the dark about how to achieve actual financial security. Let's get into it.
Seriously, just think about the thousands, literally thousands of hours we all spent memorizing chemistry formulas, historical dates, and geography. Now contrast that with the stuff that actually dictates your daily quality of life as an adult. Things like taxes, investing, inflation, or how to handle debt. Like, you can probably balance a chemical equation, or at least you used to be able to, right? But were you ever sat down and shown exactly how a credit card interest rate compounds? For millions of us, the answer is just a resounding, frustrating no.
But here is the kicker. This wasn't just some accident or a simple oversight by the school board. Leaving wealth building concepts out of the classroom was actually a direct consequence of how modern education was fundamentally designed right from the ground up. Honestly, to really grasp why we're in this situation, we have to take a quick look back at what the school system was actually built to accomplish in the first place. So, rewind to the 19th century, right in the thick of the Industrial Revolution. Back then, compulsory schooling had one main objective: produce a punctual, rule-following workforce to fuel these massive new industrial economies. I mean, they needed factory workers. They certainly didn't need independent, savvy investors. Then, moving into the 20th century, the focus shifted over to standardization, basically supporting the rise of massive corporations. And today, well, we're living with the legacy of that exact design. Millions of people are graduating highly skilled in routine tasks, but completely missing the critical financial decision-making skills that you absolutely need to survive in the modern world. Now, this isn't just some theoretical academic gap we're talking about here. It has massive, very tangible consequences that just snowball over a lifetime. Because think about it, when you don't understand the rules of the money game, you essentially end up playing life on hard mode. And unfortunately, that burden, it only gets heavier the older you get. Let's put this into perspective. Imagine two people. They have the exact same education, they work at the exact same company, pulling in the exact same salary, okay? But person A spends every single extra dollar they make on lifestyle upgrades. Nicer car, bigger apartment. Person B, on the other hand, consistently invests just a portion of their income into diversified assets. Now, for the first few years, their lives look practically identical. You wouldn't even notice a difference. But fast forward 30 years, wow, they are living in completely different financial universes. One of them is forever tethered to that next paycheck, while the other has basically bought their own freedom.
And this brings us to a really foundational truth. The difference between those two people, it isn't income. We constantly assume that wealthy people simply earn a bigger salary, right? But the reality is, money is way less about the size of a single paycheck, and it's so much more about your behavioral decisions. Specifically, the tiny decisions you repeat thousands of times over a couple of decades. Which leads us straight to one of the absolute most famous concepts in all of finance. You've probably heard it attributed to Albert Einstein. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Now look, historians debate if he actually even said that, but regardless of who coined the phrase, the mathematical principle behind it remains undeniably and honestly almost terrifyingly powerful when you apply it to your own wealth. So what is compound growth, really? It's simply time amplifying your disciplined decisions. I always like to think of it like planting a giant oak tree. For the first few years, it seems like nothing is happening. It grows agonizingly slowly. But then, boom, suddenly its branches spread and it multiplies in size year after year. See, investing isn't some magic trick for instant wealth. It's simply the realization that time is, without a doubt, your greatest asset. Time takes those small, boring, disciplined decisions and turns them into an absolute unstoppable force. Okay, so if the math is so incredibly simple, why isn't everyone walking around extremely wealthy? Well, it's because modern economies are perfectly, deliberately designed to intercept your money way before it ever gets the chance to compound. The real struggle here, it's not a spreadsheet problem, not at all. It is a massive psychological battle, and it's being fought right inside your brain every single day. Think about it. Modern economies are relentlessly competing for your attention. Every single notification that lights up your phone, every eerily hyper-targeted ad on your feed, every one of those anxiety-inducing limited-time sales, they are all engineered by absolute experts. Marketing is just an incredibly formidable force, right? It's highly effective at encouraging instant spending, and it works directly against your long-term financial freedom.
So, yeah, your biggest financial battles are not mathematical. You can literally build the perfect budget spreadsheet, but if you lack delayed gratification or impulse control or long-term thinking the second a targeted ad hits your timeline, well, the math just isn't going to save you. These psychological habits, they are the invisible shields that actually protect your wealth from the modern world. But here's the good news. Once you really understand both the math and the psychology behind this, you can start building a framework. Look, there's no magical secret formula to getting rich quick, but researchers absolutely agree that financially successful people follow very specific, repeatable patterns. So let's take a look at the blueprint they use to navigate all these traps in our modern economy. The blueprint is essentially built on 4 key steps. Step 1, you have to take your education into your own hands long after school ends. Step 2, understand risk. Don't just gamble blindly, calculate it. Step 3, diversify. You've got to know that relying on just a single source of income is inherently fragile. And step 4, honestly the most vital one, shift your mindset to think in decades, not weeks. Wealthy people aren't looking for quick, flashy wins. They are literally planting forests. And pulling this off requires the ultimate mindset shift. You have to realize that money is just a tool. It is not the final destination. When money itself is your only end goal, it just leads to endless anxiety. The goalposts keep moving. But when you view it simply as a lever, just a tool you use to buy back your time and construct the exact life you want, your entire relationship with earning and saving fundamentally changes. It's a real game changer. Now, what's the silver lining in all of this? We are living in an absolute golden age of information. The empowering financial education that you were completely denied in high school, it's no longer locked away behind the ivy-covered gates of elite institutions or hoarded by high-priced wealth managers. Those walls have completely come down. Seriously? Just look at the modern toolkit we have at our fingertips today. We've got deep dive research papers, amazing podcasts, and video explainers breaking down the most complex topics imaginable. We have open access to financial data that literally used to cost Wall Street guys thousands of dollars a month. We even have artificial intelligence tools that can just instantly model complex financial scenarios for you. Anyone can access this high-level knowledge now, and almost all of it is completely free. But here is the hard truth. Access to all these amazing podcasts, AI tools, and books, it is completely useless unless you actually allow that knowledge to fundamentally change your daily behavior. I mean, you can binge watch financial explainers all weekend long, but if you don't adjust your spending habits or actually increase your investments come Monday morning, all that knowledge just remains purely theoretical. So your financial education definitely does not end at graduation. Actually, that is exactly where it begins. The people who truly master money aren't necessarily the ones born with the highest IQs or the best math skills. They're simply the ones driven by curiosity. They make one better decision and then another, and they just repeat that boring process over years and years, constantly learning from both their successes and, yes, their failures too. You now know the traditional system was never, ever built to teach you about money. That responsibility, it's entirely yours now. But you have the tools, you understand the psychological traps, and you know the absolute power of time and compound interest. So, really, the only question left for you is, what is the very first step you are going to take today to teach yourself?